Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Throwaway Credit Sitch, who says, "Am I the a-hole for putting medical fees on my mum's credit card? I'll try to keep this snappy. CW for dental stuff. Throwaway cause I know some of my family are on here. I, female 25, was given temporary guardianship of my baby sister, female 15, for 6 weeks in the fall, while my parents, male 48, female 46, had to be overseas for several reasons. Our parents left me with my mum's car and keys, as well as a credit card for any expenses I might run into. On the first day that she stayed with me, my sister told me that she'd been having really bad tooth pain for a few weeks now. She was chewing only on one side of her mouth and sort of hesitant to eat. I told her I set her up a dentist appointment. And I did make her one for later in the week. But the next day, she said she had a fever and her face looked somewhat swollen on that side. Plus she said her pain was much worse. I called the dentist again and they were able to see her that day. It ended up being an infected abscess. We needed to pull the tooth, drain the abscess and get her antibiotics. My parents' insurance covered a lot of it. I wasn't sure what to do about the rest, and my parents weren't answering the phone all day due to the time zone difference. I just put down my mum's credit card for the amount that needed to be covered right then, as well as pay for the antibiotic prescription when I picked it up. I didn't think much of this at the time, but when my parents found out, they were peed. Dad said the credit card was for standard everyday expenses like food and gas, not emergency funds. I didn't specify this before, nor provide separate money for emergencies, and that I overstepped my bounds by dropping a large sum of money on such a rash and expensive choice that mum was going to have to pay off. I offered to pay it back. It's technically within my means, and he said forget it, it's too late now due to my impulsivity. Mum also made an offhand comment about how I didn't triple check to make sure my sister actually needed medical attention, rather than trying to get out of school. This was a while ago, so I thought it was behind us. My parents told me we weren't gathering for the holidays this winter. I found out yesterday from my sister that a bunch of family had visited and my parents hosted, so I'm sure they are more upset than I thought. My take is that I made the necessary decision for my sister's well-being and I don't regret it, but I could have done more to make sure I handled it in a more appropriate way financially, and maybe waited to go through with anything until we could get in touch. However, I offered to reimburse and was turned down. As the acting legal guardian at the time, it seemed urgent. I was worried about my little sister and the treatment needed to be paid for. Am I the a-hole? You absolutely did the right and responsible thing here. And I've heard of leaving a tooth abscess can be really dangerous, and a quick Google even says life-threatening complications because of it. And with that in mind, they've basically set you up to fail there. If you left it and suddenly your sister did get ill, you would be blamed. You got it treated, you're getting blamed for the financial stuff. So again, absolutely not the a-hole from my opinion. But the reluctant otter says, absolutely not the a-hole, but your parents sure are. A dental abscess is not the kind of thing you ignore and certainly isn't an excuse to get out of school. Left untreated, it can result in sepsis, aka blood poisoning. As I am a cynical person, I'd say they are peed because they've been ignoring your sister's complaints, and something that should have been treated early got worse until it became an abscess needing expensive treatment. You've been a better parent than them. Opie says, knowing my parents, I think you're probably right. But knowing my sister, I think there's a solid chance she didn't even bother telling them because she knew I was going to be a temporary guardian soon. I've had to help her get antibiotics for UTIs and stuff before. They are good parents in literally every other aspect, but this is a real and serious issue I have with the way they've raised us. Kitchen Dismal says, not the a-hole. Do your parents realize that your sister could have died if the abscess was not dealt with? It's a pretty serious thing when you get an infection so close to the sinuses and brain, especially if it was an upper tooth. It was damn serious and you did the right thing. What would your parents have done if they were there? Let your sister get sicker and sicker and end up in the hospital or worse. In fact, they are probably negligent if they don't take her for regular checkups. Opie responds and says, our parents are alright, but they tend to be a bit weird about medical stuff. They don't usually believe us or act like we're making it out to be worse than it really is. I can count on one hand the number of times I went to the dentist before moving out, and I've helped my sister access treatment when our parents wouldn't on several occasions. But nothing like this before. Assuming their stance hasn't changed, they said that I should have waited to take her in until I got in touch with them and talked out payment options. They were insistent that the problem was how I paid. They just also made multiple comments about being impulsive or not believing her right away. I get that maybe it effed with their credit, but I thought we had established payment before they even left. HW Gina says absolutely not the a-hole. It makes me worry what other K or sister is being denied. The pain was going on for several weeks by the time you took over, so presumably they already knew about it and decided it wasn't important. Your mum said you didn't triple check your sister wasn't just trying to get out of school. Surely that was proven by the pus coming out of her face. That's difficult to fake. Even if you're not invited back, please try and keep in touch with your sister in case she needs any other help. OP responds saying, "Thank you. My little sister is almost like a daughter to me in a lot of ways, and I always be there for her no matter what. I've always had her back, and that's not changing anytime soon. My parents are pretty crap at addressing medical concerns, and I'm very aware of that." Unlucky Flower 195 says, "Not the a-hole. I've had an infected abscess burst in my mouth and I ended up in hospital with a swollen throat, and doctors said if it had been left I could have died. You did the right thing here, and your parents are obviously being unreasonable." OP responds says, "Oh my god, that sounds awful. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm lucky I've somehow never had any dental problems before, but I'm prone to other health problems related to recurring infections, so I figured there was a chance it could have been that dangerous. I really didn't want to risk it. My sister is my best friend and my pride and joy." And one more comment from Psych Farmer who says, "Not the a-hole. Untreated dental infections can get dangerous. You did what you had to do. I'm confused about what they would have rather you do. Sounds like they're in a bad place financially and are embarrassed." OP says, "Yeah, maybe. In their words, I shouldn't have rushed into anything until I get a hold of them and talking about how we were going to pay for it. I could have paid in full with my own money, but I'd have been coasting on fumes till my next paycheck. I'll ditch the morning iced matcha for my baby sister in a heartbeat, but that wasn't an exception that they had previously set for me." So OP first edits the post, which says sort of an update, I guess. "The other night I talked to my sister a bit about what happened, and she said mum and dad didn't tell her that they weren't inviting me to Christmas. When she asked where I was on Christmas morning, my dad told her I wasn't able to make it. She knew that was bullcrap because I'd have told her for sure if something came up, and when she got a chance to talk away from all the visiting family, she let me know what was up. After we called, she apparently got pretty worked up and decided to confront our parents about not inviting me, and pressed really hard on the subject of the credit card, and that they're still mad that I kept her from dying while I was her guardian. Mum started crying. Dad started yelling at mum that it's her fault her daughters are like this. Sister told dad to shut the F up and don't talk about me like I'm not there. Dad backhanded sister. She told me and I obviously called CPS. Some other stuff happened I won't even get into. Now my sister is at my apartment. My dad has an order from law enforcement not to be on the same property as her for at least a week. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I haven't heard from my mum except to let me know where she and dad are staying, separate from each other, in case anything happens. My sister told me the weeks I was her guardian were the easiest 6 weeks of her life. I told her I'm sorry I didn't step in sooner. We cried a lot and I let her stay up to play WoW with me and make mini cheesecakes. I'll post an update if anything happens, but I think she and I are going to be okay." So now we're going to move on to OP's update to see what that says. It starts off, "Hi everyone. I wasn't going to update, but some people reached out and pointed me to where this got shared, and I saw a lot of concern for my sister's well-being, so I thought I might as well. This is going to be pretty disorganized because life is crazy at the moment, and I'm sick on top of that, but I'll try to be responsive in the comments if anyone sees this. I'm typing this out late at night when I can't sleep because that's pretty much the only time I have anymore. And I'm so exhausted, I'm not even going to bother passing the requirements to post this on Am I the A-hole proper. So, my mum was a stay-at-home mum until I was 12. And now she works as a teacher of sorts, and my dad has a well-established career where he makes pretty good money. Apparently over the years, my mum has had to foot the bill for all things parenthood, and has accrued wild amounts of credit debt in order to make ends meet and keep up appearances for gifting holidays and that sort of thing. I've talked to my mum, She's agreed that she has a lot to work on and she's not fit to parent. I'm not ready to forgive her or anything, but I understand why she's like this and I respect that she's going to try and change. I'm going to try and help her as I learn about financial literacy myself. And without getting too much into it, Dad can pry custody from my cold dead hands. My sister gets along great with my boyfriend and she seems pretty happy here. We've always bonded over baking and neither of us were ever allowed to learn to cook before, so now I get to teach her all the recipes I've accumulated over the years. So far, all we've made is my favorite pasta sauce from scratch, but she's shaping up to be a natural. Maybe not as informative as people would like my update to be, but I just want to make it clear that I'm taking care of her and I don't plan on letting that change anytime soon. A few points that I saw people bring up. I used a throwaway because I know my brother and some cousins have Reddit and I don't want them to find my personal account. That crap's private. Not because I thought nobody in real life would recognize my story. I'm not an idiot. To clarify the timeline a bit, I posted an update the next day because I talked to my sister a bit for her perspective before making the original post. Thinking about it made her angry, so she decided to confront our parents once we were done talking. It escalated fast and I got a call in the middle of the night to come get her. I honestly am pretty surprised anyone cares about the timing. I guess it seemed natural to me because it happened in real time in my life. I don't know. The mentions of UTIs sparked some concern that there may have been some sexual abuse. So I wanted to address that. I've never experienced any, and my sister says she hasn't. I believe her. I and many other women in the family have endometriosis, which can cause frequent UTIs, and it's likely she's the same way. I only have 2 siblings and the other one is my 20-year-old brother who is in another country for school, hence why I didn't mention him. He did get a bit of golden child type treatment, but was definitely still medically neglected. He's a great guy who is also helping to support our sister however he can, but he's not financially stable as me due to being 20. Thank you so much to everyone who reached out with the advice for becoming financially literate. I kind of have a lot on my plate right now, but that's definitely next on the agenda after settling custody and looking for therapy for both of us. For those who were curious, I'm playing a Blood Death Knight and she's a Restoration Druid. We basically play World of Warcraft as if it was an open world RPG with local co-op, no guilds or raids or anything. Because a few people were interested, the mini cheesecake recipe was the Williams Sonoma strawberry mini cheesecake ones. It was pretty good, but I always think food is better when I'm freaking the F out. So I don't know, maybe they are not good. We 100% did not call them for long enough, but who cares, it was a crisis. Thank you again to everyone who shared their concern, support, and advice. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Numerous Life 399, who says, "Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my brother-in-law's new wife in front of everyone?" For context, it was not my intention, but it was absolutely how it played out. My brother-in-law, husband's brother, was away for college for 4 years and ended up eloping with a woman he had known for 7 months. None of us knew her, not that it mattered, but we just met her for the first time back a few months ago. She seemed pleasant, a bit shy, which is to be expected, and a bit rough around the edges. No big deal at all, but just like fidgety, darting her head and looking behind her shoulder like someone was standing there when no one was. We found out a short few weeks later that she has bipolar, unmedicated, so her behaviors absolutely made sense. I'm a registered nurse as well as a social worker, and I also have bipolar, but I'm medicated. On Saturday, mother-in-law invited the whole family down for dinner and brother-in-law and his new wife, Hannah, showed up, and we got to chatting at the dinner table about her diagnosis. She brought it up, not me, but she knew I knew about it, so started small talk, I believe. Well, it didn't take her long for her to deep dive into this conversation, using her arms and hands to talk, getting a bit loud. No problems, the family is loud so she fits right in. But then she became angry, over nothing, started saying stuff like, "It absolutely effing repulses me that people without bipolar try claiming that they are manic when mania is strictly a bipolar thing." I wasn't rude by any means, but I did correct her quietly and said, "Actually, mania comes in all forms and is not limited to bipolar disorders. Even people with brain tumors have been known to have manic episodes." She immediately said I was wrong, that her doctor told her that it was strictly a bipolar thing, etc. So I stood firm and said, he's wrong, and even pulled up my medical ebook to show her the paragraph that speaks on mania and everything that can cause an episode. She refused to read it, so I just turned to my husband, who wasn't paying attention to us, and said, honey, you're a doctor, what causes manic episodes? He starts listing off multiple things, including manic depressive episodes, seasonal affective disorder, postpartum psychosis, or schizoaffective disorder. Well, Hannah was peed. She immediately said that we were trying to just one-up her and that she knew what she was talking about. My husband immediately said, obviously not, if you're going to sit here and argue and gatekeep symptoms of an illness against two medical professionals. He then turned and walked off, leaving us at the table with both brother-in-laws, sister-in-law, and mother-in-law looking on. Hannah then starts crying, saying I embarrassed her on purpose for no good reason other than my pride, and stormed out of the room after screaming for everyone to stop staring at her. Brother-in-law is telling me I should have just shut my mouth and storms after her. I'm really confused if I'm the a-hole here. ETA, making an ad to include some key points here. I was quiet throughout this entire conversation. I was speaking so no one else could hear, which is exactly why my husband, who was sitting directly beside me, has no idea what we were talking about until I brought him into the conversation. She did not appear to be in any sort of episode when the conversation began, other than the first initial spew of how it repulses her. She calmed down immediately afterwards, and only slowly showed how manic she was after raising her voice at my husband for simply stating what can cause a manic episode that does not include bipolar. I was having what I thought was an academically correct conversation with an individual as small talk, mentioned in my post. She was the one who became loud and belligerent. No one at the table had any clue what me and Hannah were even talking about until Hannah started screaming at me over the table. It is my job as both a social worker and as a registered nurse to educate individuals whom are uneducated on their illness. So yes, that's probably played a part. It's more dangerous to be uneducated than it is to be educated, and to be blunt. A doctor giving her false information to begin with is troubling in itself. Sam Spade says, not the a-hole. I hate it when I'm having what I think is a strictly academic discussion with someone, and they start to take it all personally. Regretful Respawn says, not the a-hole, she embarrassed herself. Your husband is absolutely right, she's gatekeeping her illness. I'm not sure where you would proceed from here, but going forward I'd probably go low contact. If the whole family is with her on this, it'd constantly be brought up that this argument happened. I'd save myself the headache. Lady says, everyone sucks here. You're a medical professional. You know she isn't medicated. While we're responsible for our behavior even when managing mental illness, you could see her becoming agitated, and you helped escalate. Not yelling doesn't mean you didn't help escalate. You had the option of shutting down the conversation. Instead, you chose to fight because you were right. Even brought in a third party. But what was the point? With all your knowledge and experience, did you truly believe she would say, oh, my mistake? Happy Banana says everyone sucks here. You pulled up a medical ebook at the dinner table, then dragged your husband into this. Was it really that important to be right? Just change the subject. You weren't working, you were at a family dinner, so no, not your job to educate her. She is not your problem to fix. There's a time and place for this. Princess Bridget says, I'm going to give a very, very gentle everyone sucks here. Yes, sister-in-law was wrong. She was exhibiting some serious know-it-all syndrome and was out of line. She was also in a social situation that was likely uncomfortable for her since she doesn't know any of you very well yet. She's also not getting proper treatment for her diagnosis. It's also possible that she is misrepresenting what a doctor told her for any number of reasons. A doctor may have been completely correct, but she's twisting it around for who knows what reason. Yes, you were correct, but you didn't take into consideration her possible discomfort in this particular setting, and that she might get defensive when she was shown to be wrong and she might be seriously intimidated by you and your husband. Not giving her a pass, but just recognizing that this might have been the wrong setting to have this particular conversation and when she got upset. It might have been a better approach to back off, change the subject, and save education for another day or for another person. At this moment, she needs your support and friendship as she gets to know her husband's family, and not necessarily medical advice. Later, when you know each other better and are more comfortable, you might be in a position to help her understand her disorder better. And one more comment from Golden Year who says, you're the a-hole. You know she's not on meds and you know she has a mental health disorder. Why are you arguing with her? Did you really think you're going to change her mind? Did you think you're going to have a breakthrough during dinner? You're not a healthcare provider. you're a sister-in-law. Edit, I'm a nurse too, and you know what I do when people ask for my medical opinion? I shut the F up and tell them that they need to see their doctor because I'm not their doctor. I don't take the opportunity to flex like you did. And now I'm going to turn this situation to you guys. What do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. As always, your love, your support and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.